happening, everybody? Tuesday, June 14th, Election Day here in New York, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We're going to be talking a lot of New York stuff, baby. Today is Election Day, which, I have to be honest with you, until 9 p.m., will be the worst day of the year for me. And for anyone who's ever worked on a campaign, you know that Election Day is just a day where you sweat and when you stress. Luckily, it's only about 5,000 degrees here in New York, so the sweating and the stressing and the freaking out and the waiting until the polls close will absolutely have no effect on me whatsoever today. You know what else won't have an effect on me at all? Israel and Iran. Because it turns out Donald Trump, who should be next in line for a Nobel Peace Prize, has secured a ceasefire. Is this over? We shall see. Did Donald Trump solve his second war in his first 6 months in office? Did he do that? We shall see. Also, the global markets continue to rally on the backs of the ceasefire, with oil prices plummeting as we hit the summer months. Also, as I said, Election Day here in New York. Zohran Mamdani, who I have made fun of. I have definitely made fun of him. Look, I still think Andrew Cuomo's going to win, but damn, did he put up a good showing. And look, he's a communist. He genuinely doesn't like this country. However, purely from a political standpoint, gotta tip your hat. He's good at this. He's good at this. A 33-year-old who's only been in the country for like 15 minutes has a real chance of beating the Cuomo dynasty. This on the heels of a new report from James O'Keefe saying that the sexual assault charges against Andrew Cuomo were 100% faked, which, I'll be honest, I kind of thought all along. This, as the Democratic Party is just about flush out of cash. They are just about flush out of cash. We are going to make sure that we cover that, because that's a big-ass story. Before we get started, though, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place, wherever it is you are watching from. Also, real quick, just a couple stuff as we dive right in. I said here, it's Election Day here in New York. My endorsed candidates are the Ed Smith team in Huntington, the Ed Wareheim team in Smithtown, R.J. Renna in Lindenhurst and West Babylon, and Ina Vernikoff in South Brooklyn. So if you're watching this from any of those areas, guys, the polls close at 9 p.m. here in New York. Get out and vote. If you're not from New York, I'm sorry. You're going to hear that like 6 or 7 more times today. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Did you get out and vote? Why haven't you done that yet? Get out and vote. Guys, do me a favor. Once again, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We're rocking. We are rolling here. There's the live chat. AC Knight, Jeanette, how are you? How is everybody doing today? Skylar, what happening? What's happening? Also, guys, quick update. Once again, I will be in Tampa, Florida, July 11th through the 13th for the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. Make sure, if you're in the area, come on down, reach out, say hello. Say hello. I'd love to meet all of you. Also, I will be in Nashville. Oh, yeah. I will be in Nashville at the end of July for the National Young Republican Conference. Can't wait for that. It's going to be a good one. So if you're in the Nashville area, if you're in the Tampa area and you want to meet me, come on down. It's going to be one hell of a time. Barry, what's up? What's up, Mr. Shy? How are you? Sagging, how are you? Very good stuff. The one I am. Hello, Columbus. What's happening? So, just so you guys know, this is a Democratic primary. The Republican candidate in New York has already been selected. That is Curtis Sliwa in the mayor's race. So, there'll be a head-to-head for that one. Gators, where in Tampa? I actually don't know. Wherever the turning point thing is, I got to be honest, I didn't book it. I'm kind of just flying in and seeing what happens from there. I'll look it up for you guys during the show. I'll look it up for you guys during the show. I tried to vote in Copiague, but they said not in my district, no contest. Says Irish. Yes, you may if you live in North Copiague, you don't have it. You don't have a race. South Copiague does. South Copiague does. Any New Yorkers who are looking on who to vote for, you let me know. Let me know. Let's dive right on. Guys, do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up button and also head on over to LFATV.us. That's LFATV.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFATV related. Check out the LFATV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor. Over at LFATV.us. That's LFATV.us. Sly wants to know, will you do your podcast from Tampa? No. It's on the weekends. So I won't be doing it from there. What do they call them? A workcation, where you work on vacation. That's what Tampa will be. Guys, head on over to LFATV.us. That's the best way to support this network and everything we've got going on. So let's dive right into the news. Obviously, there was talk of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Now, I gotta be honest with you. I'm a little annoyed at Israel. There was a ceasefire, and you guys dropped another bomb. That's the punch that Ali never gave Foreman. Don't do that, okay? No need to kick a dog when he's down. However, and Donald Trump is pretty pissed off about it too, in classic Trump fashion, as he lashes out at Israel and Iran with profanity for breaking the ceasefire. It seems like there is at the moment at least, there is a ceasefire in place between these two countries, and all I got to say to that is thank God. Thank God. I want to see people stop dying. I want to see bombs stop dropping. That's what I want to see. And you know, it's funny because you can always tell when President Trump is really pissed off, the more he gets into himself, the more he acts like himself. Here was classic Trump.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
There you got classic President Trump right there. No tie, relaxed, ready to go. And I got to say, I got to imagine when he got on the phone, when he got on Air Force One, as he heads to the NATO summit, I got to assume he had some incredible choice words for both the mullahs and the Ayatollah and for the Prime Minister of Israel. Because let's be clear, Donald Trump wants people to stop dying. Do you know why? Because when people stop dying, everyone can make money. And that is the difference between having a politician in office and having a businessman who understands what protracted wars can do. And on the heels of that ceasefire, we are seeing oil prices dropping and stocks rallying around the world. This from Newsmax. Oil prices are dropping further and stocks are rallying around the world on Tuesday on the hopes of Israel's war with Iran will not damage the global flow of crude oil. Even if a tentative truce seems to fray under fire this morning. The S&P was up nearly a point in early trading following up on even bigger gains for stocks across Europe and Asia after President Trump said late Monday that Israel and Iran had agreed to a total and complete ceasefire. The Dow Jones Industrial Average opened 300 points, almost a full point up, and the NASDAQ opened even closer to a point up. The strongest action was again in the oil market, where a barrel of oil, where a barrel of benchmark U.S. oil fell 5% to $65.12. Brent crude, the international standard, dropped almost as much. The fear throughout the Israel-Iran conflict was that they could squeeze off the world's oil supply, which would pump up prices for gasoline and hurt the global economy, as Iran is a major producer of crude oil. And it could also try to block the Strait of Hormuz off of its coast, in which 20% of the world's daily oil passes in ships. But oil prices began to fall sharply after Iran launched what appeared to be a limited retaliatory attack that didn't target the production or movement of oil. They kept falling even after the attacks continued to pass the deadline to stop hostilities. Trump later said that the ceasefire was in effect. And if we look at the Dow Jones right now, let's pull it up real quick. The Dow Jones up more than a point, 500 points from yesterday. The S&P 500 up 1.25 points. The NASDAQ up 1.5 points, with the Russell Index being up 1.25 points as well. This is huge. This is huge. Why? Why is this huge? Because when Jerome Powell said he wasn't going to cut interest rates, many people feared that the stock market was going to take a tumble, which happens every single time the Fed either chooses to increase, decrease, or keep rates the same. We're beginning to see the gains brought back in the markets that we saw from the drop on Liberation Day. So if you were out there and you panic sold like the media told you to do, like Jim Cramer told you to do, I'm sorry, that was an incredibly stupid move. An incredibly stupid move. You should have listened to us. With the global oil market well supplied and the OPEC alliance of producing oil of producing countries steadily increasing production, oil prices could be headed even lower as the ceasefire holds and a lasting peace solution can be found, said the head of commodities at Commerce Bank. Falling oil prices could take some pressure off inflation as well. Big stuff. This is exactly what Donald Trump promised was going to happen. One thing we were incredibly worried about, and I want to be clear, I was worried about it, everybody was worried about it, following the Iranian attacks, was going to be any sort of sleeper cell here in America. Look, we know that Joe Biden let in thousands, tens of thousands. Who the hell knows how many not only Iranians but radical Islamists over the last 4 years? And that, to me, was one of the biggest problems we were worried about. It was what was going to come next. I'm not worried about Iran and a global protracted war. All right, we're the United States. We would mow through them. What I am worried about is 15 assholes in Detroit blowing up a school. Luckily, we have begun the deportations of people who should not be in this country, as we're now getting word that 11 Iranian nationalists have now been deported, with one of them being on the terrorist watch list.
And that since Sunday, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, of course, has arrested 11 Iranian foreign nationals who officials say are not authorized to be here in the United States, including one man on the known or suspected terrorist list. Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skanga joins us now with more on the details of this developing story. Nicole, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. The Department of Homeland Security says Yusuf Meridano had been living in the United States illegally for nearly 8 years, since U.S. officials determined he lied on a visa application on Sunday, just 4 months after the Iranian foreign national was added to the U.S.'s known or suspected terrorist list. He was arrested in central Mississippi. He's now in ICE custody pending removal proceedings, and he's not alone. Over the past 48 hours, years. ICE officials have arrested 11 Iranian nationals spanning 8 states nationwide. Among them, 5 possessed previous criminal convictions. Their crimes ranging from grand larceny to drug and firearm possessions. Also among those apprehended, Ribvar Karimi. While arresting him in northern Alabama, ICE officials say they found his Islamic Republic of Iran Army identification card and allege he served as an Iranian sniper between 2018 and 2021.
Oh, we're letting in Iranian snipers. Right. You guys remember when if we weren't going to let in illegal immigrants, we were never going to find a cure for cancer? Nope, it turns out we're letting in assassins. Which, look, we have them, they have them, every country has them. I get it. However, I don't think Iran would want, Chris Kyle roaming around his country picking people off. Well, it's now time to head back home. Adios, muchacho. I know that's Spanish, but, I don't know how to say it in Arabic, so be it. Hey, guys, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everyone. I really hope you are enjoying the program today, and I hope you enjoy LFA TV as a whole, because let's face it, we're not getting any younger. However, if there was a way to slow down our aging and live a little bit longer, would we do it? I think we would. You ever heard of Fatty 15, folks? Well, Fatty 15 is a brand new supplement that has C15 in it. You might ask, what's C15? Well, C15 is the first fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years that actually prolongs your life. Over 100 studies over many years were done on dolphins because these 2 doctors were in charge of basically increasing the dolphin population. So they started introducing this fatty acid called C15. And what they found was something amazing. The dolphins were living longer and the dolphin pods were growing bigger. It was an amazing discovery. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you can get C15 introduced into your life to slow down the aging process of your cells. And it's not only going to make you feel and look younger, but it's going to make your body think it is younger, which means you're going to start doing more things again. There's a thing called cellular fragility syndrome. And cellular fragility syndrome happens as we get older. This is going to reverse it, folks. Fatty15.com/LFA, promo code LFA. That is fatty15.com/LFA, promo code LFA. Get your discount today, folks, and start this new journey to help you live longer. Fatty15.com/LFA, promo code LFA today. Now, back to the program. Thank you very much.
Guys, head on over to fatty15.com/LFA. That's fatty15.com/LFA. So things continue to get fired up in D.C. following the Iran strike. Sure, oil prices are down. Sure, markets are down. Sure, the ceasefire happened. But of course, there are still some people very, very upset about it. Very upset about it. With AOC talking about impeaching Donald Trump over the attacks. Of course she is. Of course she is. To which Donald Trump responded, "Stupid AOC, one of the dumbest members in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice. The reason for her rants is all the victories that the United States under the Trump administration has had. The Democrats aren't used to winning. And she can't stand the concept of the country being successful again. When we examine her test scores, we will find that she's not qualified for the job. But nevertheless, far more qualified than Crockett, who is a seriously low IQ individual, or Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about it." You know what? I'm just going to put this up on the screen. As Donald Trump just shit talks everyone in the Democratic Party. Let's see, who did he hit here? We got AOC. Let's see, Crockett, Ilhan, Sleepy Joe, Kamala. Hey, there's a greatest hits for you right there. Chuck Schumer, he hits. All in one tweet. "Make my day," he says. So, naturally, he told Democrats to make his day and bring on Congressman Geico Caveman.
Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. And I rise today in the name of government of the people, by the people, for the people. I rise today because our country is nearing a moment of decision. I rise because we are at the intersection of democracy and autocracy. I rise to announce that at this moment in time, I have filed HRES 537. HRES 537 is a privileged resolution. HRES 537 has been filed because I believe that the President of the United States has committed an impeachable act. HRES 57 addresses abuse of presidential powers by disregarding the separation of powers, devolving American democracy into an authoritarian government, usurping congressional power to declare war. Mr. Speaker, I take no delight in what I'm doing. I do this because I love my country. I do this because I understand that the Constitution is going to be meaningful or it will be meaningless. I do it because I understand that the President of the United States of America has a duty to consult Congress before taking this country to war. I do it because no one person should have the power to take over 300 million people to war without consulting with the Congress of the United States of America. I do this because if I do not, this authoritarian president that we currently have will continue to assume power. He has already instigated
Impeachment. So easy a caveman can do it. Or apparently a caveman can't do it. As Al Green continues to make a complete ass out of himself live on television. But hey, that's what they do. And because they do things like this, Democrats are facing a very, very, very serious problem. A very serious problem. They have no money. They are flush out on cash. It turns out paying little bitches on TikTok like Harry Sisson is not the best campaign strategy. Not the best campaign strategy, as billionaire donors cut off the Democratic cash flow and called the DNC completely ineffective. The Democratic Party may now have to borrow money just to keep the lights on as it continues to be plagued by infighting and chaos. David Hogg, his brief tenure as vice chair, was disrupting any real efforts for the party to effectively fundraise and register new voters, while guys like me and Scott Pressler are out there kicking ass and taking names, literally taking names on voter registration cards. Now some Democratic big donors are withholding cash from the party because they feel it is weak and ineffective. The New York Post reported that billionaire Democratic donors, including Barry Diller and Michael Bloomberg, are refusing to fork over more cash for now to the party's main fundraising committee because there is now a broad consensus that it is ineffectual. The Democratic National Committee has been plagued by infighting and defections. This is from the Daily Fetch. As the party remains virtually leaderless as President Trump's victory over Kamala Harris into 2024 election, prompting a once reliable and deep-pocketed donors to yank their funding. Diller, chairman of such holdings as the internet and media behemoth IAC, seethed in his newly released memoir, Who Knew? That former President Joe Biden and his administration would use a bait-and-switch tactic when it came to his promise of restoring the soul of the nation. Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer went even deeper on this one. Here it is.
Look at these headlines about the Democratic Party. 110, Politico, weak, whiny, and invisible regarding the DNC chair, Ken Martin. Here's the New York Times, 112. Sorry, having trouble reading this. The DNC is in chaos and desperate for cash. And here's the Washington Post, 113. Democrats want to fight Trump, but they can't stop fighting each other. Mr. Martin, by all accounts, is a very nice guy. I got nothing against him personally. I said from the beginning, they need a stud chair. They need someone who is a colossus. They need someone in the mold of Haley Barbour or Ron Brown. And instead, what they got is Joe Andrew. You know who Joe Andrew is? Joe Andrew was the DNC chair.
Yeah.
And once President Bush was asked a question about, well, Joe Andrew says da-da-da. And you know what President Bush said?
Who's Joe Andrew?
Who's Joe Andrew? So, Dan, are these stories just a bunch, as the chairman and his people say, just a bunch of Washington, D.C. inside gossip? Or is there anything in those three pieces that if you were a Democrat, you'd actually be worried about?
There's a lot in those pieces that I would be worried about. I mean, and we don't have enough time, but I'll just say, two.
Firstly, look at the jovial nature of the three of them. They know that this is absolutely hilarious.
Big ones. One is money. Like we've always talked about this. The job of the chairman is to raise money and then use it to build infrastructure and kind of have a pot of cash for campaigns to use to support them in the midterms and for the president. It is being reported that the Republican National Committee has $68 million on hand and the DNC has $18 million. We have had 2-to-1, 3-to-1 cash on hand advantages the last 6 or 7 years. And now we are staring at a 3-to-1 disadvantage. And that's a huge problem. The stories are saying the committee's thinking of borrowing money. And that has not happened in over 25 years, since before Terry McAuliffe. The second is, and Mark, you've talked about this here and on other platforms, voter registration numbers continue to be terrible for the Democratic Party. And they continue to be very strong for the Republican Party. So money,
you're welcome. You're welcome.
You're supposed to be doing. And then just the other thing is, it is not good when you have people like Donna Brazile and others saying, who is, for those who don't know, she is a very prominent Black figure in the Democratic Party, going back to when she ran Al Gore's campaign in 2000. She was like, he's not my cup of tea, basically. And like, I don't want to be his friend. I mean, that was taken aback.
Yeah. And Sean, before you jump in, I'll just say, picking up, Dan, on what you said, like, you have to be a titan to raise money when you're out of power, and you got to give people confidence. And I can't tell you the number of donors who've said to me, like, I don't even want to meet with the guy. Like, what's the point? I don't want to write him a check. What's my money going for?
Look, there's been like 3 times in my entire life when I've said, read the New York Times. This is one of them. That story was brutal. Yeah. Dan's right. I mean, like, the number of people on the record crapping on the DNC is mind blowing. He hasn't even called the Soroses. Dude, that's like, at some point, like, you need to call the guys with the money. They literally, it was embarrassing, that story. A couple little small points. All money isn't created equal. Dan mentioned the disparity between the RNC and the DNC. There's 4 pots of money that a committee raises. The general pot, which is the sort of blood. It can be used for anything you want. Then we've resurrected the building fund, the legal fund, and the convention fund. So when you get people to give out, when you look at someone's total amount raised, it's deceiving sometimes, because you might max out, you might raise $5 million in a building fund, but you're somewhat restricted in what you can use that for. So they have a bigger problem, because their O-type blood of the money that they can use for anything, which is like pay staff, turn the computers on, all that kind of thing, is a problem right now. He has created this 57 quote state/territory a la Howard Dean strategy, where he's committing $1 million a month, which, okay, I actually don't think that's a bad thing, but you can't do it when you don't have any money. Yeah. This is a problem. Yeah, over and over again. They don't have a strategy. That's a bigger problem. And everybody's saying it. He's not doing the basics. It's to me, that storytelling.
Did you guys notice what Sean Spicer said there? A 57 state fund? What the hell is 57 states? Do you know why? Because Ken Martin is so out of money, he's hitting up the people in Guam. That's not like a euphemism. He's calling Guam, saying, hey guys, I know you're not really a state, and I know you have basically no voting power whatsoever, but please send us your money. Hasn't hit up the Soroses yet. Look, I know a lot of people, and this is something you guys really wouldn't know unless you're an insider. unless you're in politics. Chairman of county committees and state committees and the RNC. It's not an activist type job. Like, I want to be clear. I would not be good at it. A lot of people were clamoring for Scott Pressler to become the RNC chair. Love Scott. Going to be working with Scott. Would do anything I could for Scott. He wouldn't be good at it. The reason for a committee is to fundraise. As Sean Spicer said at the beginning, I would be terrible at it. Do you know why? I don't know any rich people. I have no relationships with a Mike Bloomberg or a Dan Diller or a George Shore. I don't have a relationship. I don't know how to do that. It's not my cup of tea. Your party chairman needs to be able to bring home the bacon, and it's simply not happening right now. So they're going to places like Guam to beg them for money. And why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Because it turns out that after being lied to for the last 4 years and having guys like Jake Tapper out there suddenly just be, did we get the wool pulled over our eyes on Joe Biden? We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, raising money for the DNC is damn near impossible, but do you know what isn't? Switching banks to Old Glory Bank. Guys, I did it. You did it too. While the rates are staying the same, I would suggest, and I'm not a financial analyst, so don't take my word for it, I would consider taking some of your money and locking it down in a CD with Old Glory Bank. That's what I would do. I'm not a financial advisor, but if I was, that's what I would tell you to do. Of course, that's for the lawyers. Guys, go to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So maybe the reason why the DNC can't raise any damn money is because now we're starting. See, the people who work at the Washington Post think that the people at CNN and NBC and the New York Times, they think that we find them impressive. But they find themselves way more impressive. So when you've got legend Chuck Todd and legend Jake Tapper out there saying, I don't know, guys, maybe we've had the wool pulled over our eyes for a little bit on Joe Biden. Momentum's not too strong over in Democratic lands.
So for me, the original sin was running in the first place.
Oh, well, yes, I've heard you talk about this because
his family was in crisis.
Right, because his daughter and his son were addicted to drugs.
I followed that Hunter Biden trial soup to nuts. I read every single transcript. I read all of the testimony. I cannot believe to this day, Jake, that Hunter Biden, that Joe Biden did this to his kids.
So somebody close to the family
can't believe that he did it.
Somebody close to the family told us, and this is in the book, that everybody knows, some of the family aphorisms like, my word is a Biden, or, et cetera, et cetera. A lesser known Biden family saying is don't call a fat person fat. And by that, they mean it's not about politeness. It's about hiding truths, not acknowledging truths. And this person close to the family suggested that there are lots of truths that the family did not want to face up to. One, Bo is dying. Mm-hmm. 2, Hunter is addicted to drugs. 3, Joe Biden cares about his family more than he cares about anything else. Mm-hmm. And those 3 are not true. This person close to the family said, and that's when you talked about his running in 2020. I think that comes to bear because obviously he was putting his ambition, and if you want to be charitable, his hopes to save the country from Trumpism or whatever. Obviously, he was putting that above what was going on with his family and his two children and their struggles.
Look, I mean, you and I covered, for most of our professional lives, the story of Joe Biden was this guy cared about his family so much he commuted home every night from Washington.
Now, by the way,
what else you could say is this man was so ambitious that after his family went through that tragedy, he commuted every day to work. Right. Like it's the same story.
He had his narrative. His sister help raise his voice.
I sit here, I look at this and I think, were we sold a 40-year bill of goods?
Wait. You mean to tell me that Joe Biden and his family only give a shit about themselves? Have we had the wool pulled over our eyes? Yeah! Dumbass! Yeah. It turns out, Chuck Todd, you didn't need to do a deep dive investigation. You didn't have to comb through anybody's garbage. All you had to do was watch a show like this one or any of the other 15,000 conservative podcasts out there to find this out. But no, you don't do that. You read the New York Times, who had their head so far up Joe Biden's ass, the sports page was wiping it. You think that working at the Washington Post is like, an accomplishment, despite the fact that they employed somebody like Taylor Lorenz for years on end. It's not hard to see. Maybe that's why the Democratic Party continues to have struggles. Or it could be because the Democratic Party can't stop, won't stop taking the 20% side of every single issue. We saw Governor, I can't draw my eyebrows on correctly, Kathy Hochul the other day, saying that she plans to spend $50 million on legal services for people who have no right to be in this country in the first place. And now we've got Zoltan Mondami coming out, he's going to do pretty good tonight. He's going to do pretty good tonight, saying that he will go all in on transing children to the tune of $65 million. That's right. Zohan Mondami is going to spend an entire Travis Hunter all on mutilating children. Queens Assemblyman Zohan Mondami is looking to win the upcoming Democratic New York mayor's race and would sink millions into gender-affirming procedures for both adults and children if elected. Mondami, a Democratic Socialist communist, said on his website that he would prioritize expanding and protecting gender-affirming care citywide. The Mondami administration will protect gender-affirming care immediately by investing $65 million in public providers to provide gender-affirming care to New Yorkers who seek it, and will hold private entities abating Trump's attack to this account, the website states. This from the Daily Wire, noting that such care would be made available to both adults and children in direct opposition of Trump's efforts to restrict transgender procedures, whether chemical or surgical, for minors. They can't stop. They won't stop. And then they wonder why billionaires, because I want to be clear, here's the one thing about a billionaire. You're probably old. It takes a while to accumulate $1 billion, unless, you're like some tech bro. And it turns out 75-year-old men like Mike Bloomberg hear, wait a minute, you want to spend my money to transition children? Yeah, I think I'm good. I don't think I'll be investing in you. Wait, you want to take my money, taxing the millionaires and the billionaires, and then give it to illegal immigrants? No, it turns out most Americans not fans. Turns out most Americans are not fans. But when somebody gets in the way, when somebody gets in the way, they have the same tried and true tactic. The same tried and true tactic. And I ain't going to do something here that many of you are not going to like. Many of you are not going to like, but I believed it to be true at the time. You can go back and look. And it has to do with Andrew Cuomo. Before we get to that, someone a hell of a lot better than him, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com. Promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com. Promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com. Promo code LOUD. So, look, I want to explain something to the people who aren't from New York. Okay? Now, let me preface this by saying I don't like Andrew Cuomo. I don't like him on a plane. I don't like him on a train. I don't like his D-bag brother who's trying to become a moderate, despite the fact that I use some of his clips now and again, because it's funny. I'm not a fan of the Cuomos. However, I want to make this very, 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 very clear. I always thought the sexual harassment charges against Andrew Cuomo were bullshit. I always thought they were. I just did. Here in New York, we hug, we kiss, and we say hello. That's how we are. If you've ever watched a movie about New York, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, you could argue you shouldn't do that with staffers. Okay, that's fine. But to claim sexual assault because you hugged your intern, I'm sorry, is just BS. It is just baloney. Now, Andrew Cuomo, nursing home deaths, boom, throw him in jail. COVID lockdowns, boom, throw him in jail, for sure. 1,000%. The multitudes of cover-ups and corrupt dealings he has made over the years. But this, the final death in the Me Too, in the mostly BS Me Too movement, I want to be very clear, I always thought to be crap. And now we've got proof of it from James O'Keefe.
Some of the allegations are 100% fake because those girls were sitting on his lap taking selfies with him.
So he was being blackmailed.
It kind of was. So there's a new law that Governor Cuomo signed when he was at the end of his term. When Cuomo was getting that investigation, he didn't have a lot of political power. His political power went down, right? And so he was pushed to sign this group of legislation. So it's like several pieces of legislation. They're like all together regarding nursing homes.
Okay.
But it was written so poorly, like, we can't implement it. Like, our Department of Health, and we're trying to implement it. It's just we can't do it.
Who wrote that?
The Nurses Association.
So that he was forced to sign it.
Yeah, pretty much.
On the eve of the New York mayor's Democratic mayoral primary election, former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani are neck and neck in the polls, and questions still linger about Cuomo's final days in office as governor. Last year, New York State Department of Health Senior Counsel Jacob Wilkinson, who worked for former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Governor Kathy Hochul, met with our undercover OMG journalist in New York City. Wilkinson revealed that when Andrew Cuomo was in office, the former governor was forced to sign a poorly written nursing home bill that Wilkinson states the health department can't implement. Wilkinson explained that his former boss, then Governor Cuomo, lacked political power, ultimately leading to the signing of the nursing home bill.
And what they do is they require for one example of what I'm working on most, they require spending requirements for nursing homes. So a nursing home has to spend 70% of its revenue on direct resident care, and that's like defined.
Okay.
And so they can't spend it on paving the driveway or or fixing the roof. It has to be like
Directly
resident
patient care.
Yeah. And then 40% of that has to be resident facing care. So that's like actual people.
And so when Kathy became the governor, you wanted to change it.
Right.
So you think Cuomo actually handled it pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any like lessons learned, like mistakes made?
Oh, yeah.
Like around nursing homes or just in general?
Everything was like because of COVID, everything was like updated.
Yeah. Like what are some of the top ones?
Like air filtration was updated a lot.
What about like operational?
The way they can isolate populations in hospitals and nursing homes got better.
Wilkinson also reveals that some of the sexual misconduct allegations labeled against Cuomo were 100% fake and agreed with the assertion that Cuomo was blackmailed.
Remember, he was like under investigation for a bunch of things.
Are those allegations true?
Some of the allegations are 100% fake because those girls who are in the allegations were sitting on his lap taking selfies with him at events.
Were they spies?
And they're like, and then they came out to like support allegations like he did this.
So he was being blackmailed.
It kind of was.
And he apparently didn't give them what they wanted. That's why they like.
All they did was get rid of him.
So he's actually not a bad guy.
No. Like he's handsy.
If you're an insider, email us at tips@o'keefemediagroup.com or text call 914-491-9395 and OMG Journalist will get back to you. This is only the beginning. Stay tuned.
And look, I want to be clear. I said it from the very start. I think Andrew Cuomo is corrupt. I think he handled the nursing home scandal in an absolutely dreadful way, and I think he should be absolutely held accountable for that. But, look, is he a little handsy? Probably. A sexual assaulter, Harvey Weinstein level? Not a chance. Not a chance. I never believed it. I never believed it. Now, do I think he's a good person? Like, would I let my sister near him? Probably not. But, like a predator? No. It's what we do in New York. We hug, we kiss, that's what we do. Some people from around the country may not understand it, they may not like it, and I get that. I get that totally. I totally get that. But unfortunately, and the reason why I put this out right now is in the very small possibility somebody from New York City sees this. Andrew Cuomo is the lesser of two evils here. Because Zoran Mamdani is dangerous. With a supermajority, the way he's going to have in the city council, there's nothing that's going to stop him from just running roughshod over the city that I love, the city of New York. And I really hope that Democrats in New York see through this facade. And I got to be honest with you. I've been saying it for a long time that it was going to be Cuomo was going to run away with it. Now I'm not so sure. Guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We are rocking and rolling. 8 minutes to the top of the hour. 8 minutes to the top of the hour. Before we keep going, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. Also, if you are a part of my local audience, have you voted yet? If you haven't, why haven't you voted yet? If you live in the town of Huntington, if you live in the town of Smithtown, if you live in Lindenhurst or West Babylon or South Brooklyn, get out and vote. Ed Smith, Ed Wareheim, RJ Renna, and Ina Vernikov. Guys, they're all friends of mine. They're all phenomenal elected officials. And RJ will be a phenomenal elected official. We got to keep them in office to help them build the momentum moving into 2026. All right? That has to happen. That has to happen. So get out and vote. You go to your normal polling place. You go to the place you vote for President Trump at. Go to your regular place. Get out. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I've ever said something like this. Turn this show off and go vote if you are in the local area. Guys, before we keep rolling, Old Glory Bank one more time.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big bank sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to own.oldglorybank.com. That's own.oldglorybank.com. So, amidst the talks of the ceasefire and the ending of World War III, we were all going to die. I'll be honest, I overreacted a little. I did. But you got to be cautious when it comes to war, and that's what I was doing. In the midst of all that, we've still got to pass the one big, beautiful bill. Bada Bing on YouTube says, it's just New York City elections today, right? No. All over the state of New York, there are primaries. Let me know where you are, and I will let you know if you have a primary. So, in the midst of all the ceasefire talk, the one big, beautiful bill is still making its way back to the House of Representatives. What all will be in that bill? Well, one big thing in the big, beautiful bill will be the cutting of the death tax. Now, on a principled perspective, if I'm going to be honest, people, they think the death tax affects everybody, and it doesn't. It doesn't. It affects very rich people. On a principled perspective, I don't think people should be punished for the great sin of being rich and dying, particularly when those people are farmers. Here's Fox News.
Raising taxes doesn't work for those raising cattle, but American farmers are optimistic the big, beautiful bill could be the answer to the economic relief they've been asking for. Douglas Kennedy spoke with some ranchers out west with this great story. Hey, Douglas.
Hey, Jackie. Yeah, for years, America has been losing family farms, especially those located near the super wealthy. So you've got the Hollywood people in the South, then you've got the Silicon Valley people in the North, and they're all coming here to buy this ranch land.
That's absolutely right. They're driving up the prices, and it doesn't even get used for agriculture.
For multiple generations, Kevin Kester's family has been raising cattle and farming land in San Luis Obispo, California, a county that saw property values increase close to 70% in the last 5 years. It's a jump Kevin fears will see his long tradition of family farming and with him. So a family ranch like this one simply can't absorb the tax bill that comes from increased land values.
That's right. Our tax system here in the U.S. makes it impossible or near impossible for a fifth-generation rancher like me to be able to pass on to the next generation, my kids or my grandkids.
It's a story being played out on farms across the country, with America losing over 140,000 farms every 5 years.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
On May 22nd, the House passed its reconciliation bill that would allow tax-free inheritance and gifts up to $30 million a year. If it becomes law, Kevin says death tax relief would keep his farm in his family.
It's hard to imagine that this is a priority for Americans right now.
Matt Gardner is from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. He says inheritance and gift taxes are a guard against income disparity. He also points out eliminating them would greatly balloon the deficit.
This one provision, increasing the estate tax exemptions, would add $200 billion to that big national debt we face. We're already sitting in a pretty big hole fiscally, and this is just going to dig the hole deeper in a way that makes it harder for us as a nation to provide the things we all want to provide.
So critics say you may save your family ranch with this, but you're going to add all this money that everybody else's family is going to have to pay in the future.
Well, I disagree that it's going to add a lot of money for everybody else to have to pay in the future, but more importantly, we would stand the chance of losing a way of life of ranchers and farmers across this country.
A way of life, he says, made America great, and America can't afford to lose. Back to you, Jackie and Bill.
Douglas Kennedy, what important reporting and a really cool story to shoot. I mean, I think you were on a horse and that drone shot. So if you ever want to cover the White House, like we could switch places.
I'll stick to the ranches, Jackie. Thank you.
So look, on the one hand, do I really care about taxing rich people? No, I really don't. However, you shouldn't be penalized for the crime of dying. If you built a great business, the whole point of that is to leave it to your children. And don't sit there and claim you care about deficits while you're out there funneling money into that cluster that is Ukraine. Bada boom, there are no primaries in Nassau County, so don't worry about it. Guys, Will Johnson is coming up next in a couple of minutes. Once again, guys, if you are in New York, if you are on Long Island, get your asses out and vote. Get out and vote. Once again, Ed Wareheim, Ed Smith, RJ Renna, and Ina Vernikoff in South Brooklyn. Guys, get out and vote. Look, I'm confident tonight will go my way, the way in which I want, and you guys will know that by tomorrow's show if I appear to be in very, very bad shape. Which, I'm not a betting man, but I'd put my money on it. Guys, I'll be back tomorrow, probably a little tired. Just saying. Until then, everybody, stay loud.